Hi, everyone. Welcome to the SCALEit Method, where we teach you how to reach the next level in business, build your dream team, and scale beyond 8 figures. Too many business owners are stuck trying to do everything themselves, and their businesses are suffering as a result. And I don't want you to be one of those people. I am Allison Maslan, and my company, Pinnacle Global Network, has helped thousands of business owners scale their companies using my framework, the SCALEit Method. All business owners face similar challenges when it comes to growth. So on this podcast, we're delivering the tactics you need to finally reach that next level in business, build your dream team, and scale beyond 8 figures. Today, I'm very excited. I'm talking to Ryan Blair, who is a serial entrepreneur, a venture capitalist, and best-selling author. Ryan is the founder and CEO of AlterCall, a coaching platform that teaches leaders how to elevate their minds, their bodies, and their souls in order to live a meaningful life. That sounds so good. He is the former CEO of ViSalus, and it's a global healthy lifestyle company. Ryan brought ViSalus out of debt, helped it to survive the 2008 recession, and sold it for over $700 million. And we want to know how the heck he did that. Ryan was named Ernst & Young 2012 Entrepreneur of the Year and also won the DSN Global Turnaround Award in 2010. And I wanted to bring Ryan on the show because his emphasis is on conscious leadership, which creates a culture of motivation and which really is the foundation for scaling any company. Conscious leadership and conscious business revolve around aligning yourself with your mission and feeling fulfilled with the work that you're doing. And when everyone in the company is aligned and everyone's in the mindset of growing and scaling, then you have a powerful energy behind you. So I'm excited to talk to Ryan about how to implement conscious leadership into our company, into your company. So welcome, Ryan. Thank you so much for being on the SCALEit Method podcast.
Thank you for having me, Allison. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so, our show focuses on how to scale companies beyond 8 figures, which you have done yourself. You walk the talk, and you've successfully built and sold 6 multi-million-dollar companies by the time you were 30. Oh, my God. And prior to becoming an entrepreneur, you were living a completely different life. Can you tell us about what you were doing in your earlier life, what it was like growing up for you?
Well, yeah, I started in the middle class. My dad was an engineer. My mother was a homemaker. Then my dad got addicted to drugs, my mother to alcohol, and I lost both of them at a young age. So about 11 years old, my middle class environment started to disintegrate. By the time I was 13, I was living on the streets. I was living in a converted turkey coop, a small shack in the back of a impoverished neighborhood. There was a lot of gang violence, and next thing you know, I got caught up with the wrong group of friends, and I got jumped into a gang, forced into it rather, and then started doing illegal entrepreneurship. So I went from the middle class to poverty, and then by the grace of God, I'm very spiritual. My mother introduced me to a man who later became my mentor, and he was an entrepreneur, and he lived in the wealthy class. And so when I saw the way the wealthy lived, and I heard about this thing called entrepreneurship, it was so exciting to me because I wasn't going to be a doctor or a lawyer or any of the other professions that the counselors in school tried to direct me toward because I'd already dropped out of school my freshman year. I thought I'd never go to college. I had no hope for the future whatsoever, and the education system had completely failed me. So when he told me about entrepreneurship and told me I didn't need a college degree, I didn't need to be good in school, but I could learn some skills like sales and marketing and a variety of other skills, and I could be, rich. I was like, well, why didn't my teachers tell me about that path? So I became an entrepreneur at about 19 years old, and I'm now turning 45, so I've been at this for a good 5 plus years.
Yeah, wow, that is an incredible story. You obviously turned your life around, and wow, you had an angel, right? You had an angel drop into your life that was introduced to you by your mom. And so that truly was a blessing, and you can see the possibilities. And yeah, Why this isn't taught in school, I have no idea. Maybe that's
It's
going to
crazy.
change
Yeah,
moving forward.
I have a 13-year-old boy, and the other day we were talking to him as he's transitioning to the next, he's going into middle school, and they were talking about different career choices he has. And I said, well, his father's an entrepreneur. He's going to start a company. And everyone in the room, the principal and the teachers and everyone looked at me like I was crazy. And it is at the school system has no entrepreneurial concept whatsoever. It actually trains our children away from being entrepreneurs and takes away their entrepreneurial spirit, basically. So I'm a huge advocate of teaching the subject of entrepreneurship, even at a young age.
Yeah, I agree. I started my business at 19 too, although I'm a little bit older than you. And raised my daughter as a single mom, and she really was by my side through building these businesses, and therefore has her own now too. So I think
Wow.
it's great that you're doing that for your son, because our kids do what we do, right?
Yeah.
And so, or the opposite of what we do, in your case with your parents.
Yeah.
So let's go back there for just a moment longer, because you've said on different occasions, and I've listened to some of your other interviews, read amazing things that you've done, that you learned a lot about business while you were in a gang. Can
Yeah.
you share any of those defining moments and lessons that you've carried with you from that?
Yeah, well, a gang is simply an illegal organization, and there's a hierarchy to it. There's reporting structure. There's economic, initiatives, right? There's things that people are doing to make money, there's a lot of fundamentals that you can learn in poverty that they don't teach you in business class whatsoever. In fact, poverty is a much more entrepreneurial environment than than the middle classes. I learned leadership, I learned survival skills. And as a result of the challenges that I faced, when I faced entrepreneurial challenges, they paled in comparison because I'd already built some character and built some strength. And so when I was facing the hardship of, say, the 2008 recession, I could lean on the fact that I'd already overcome some pretty difficult hardships. So a lot of the mindset some fundamentals, some leadership fundamentals as well. Now, there's a lot of things that when you're in a gang that are not applicable. But being in a gang is very hard. You are worried about getting killed. You're worried about being betrayed by your fellow gang members. You're worried about getting arrested and going to prison. So you're really worried all the time about your survival, and all of your economic activity comes with a lot of consequences. And when I looked at traditional entrepreneurship or legal entrepreneurship, I was like, are you kidding me? I can make millions of dollars and not have to worry about going to jail, getting killed, getting betrayed.
Right.
Like this seems too easy.
Right. So when business owners they're having a stressful day, you're like, you have no idea, right? So
Yeah,
you might worried about losing an account or an employee, but not dying.
yeah. I've learned to embrace the challenges of business. And I think that if we allow ourselves to worry about them, we often suffer from suffering. And so we might lose an account and then we suffer even more than we should. Yes, it hits us hard and we should learn a lesson from it and make some adjustments. But I think we as entrepreneurs suffer from suffering too much. And so one of the techniques that I utilize is I try to celebrate the challenges. And, it's an opportunity for growth. And every time that you learn a lesson from a challenge and you apply what you've learned and you build, foundation around that, or you improve process or infrastructure, each challenge basically fortifies the foundation of what you're building. So you should actually be grateful for the ones that come, as opposed to suffering and then suffering from the suffering, which is what we tend to do as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And it's true. When the challenges come, it forces us to be creative and figure out a way to prevent it from happening next time, or just a totally better solution altogether.
Yeah.
That often ends you up taking your business to a whole other level,
Yeah, they're designed to humble you as well. And entrepreneurship is one of the most humbling things that you can possibly do as a career. You're going to have customers tell you you're terrible. You're going to have team members tell you you suck. You're going to have people say that your vision's terrible. You're going to have family members that try to talk you out of what you're up to. You're going to have competition, breathing down your neck. It's the most humbling exercise that we could possibly engage in terms of, profession. And so there's a lot of opportunity for us to utilize these vehicles to grow character and grow our consciousness, because every single day we're going to have things that come our way. They're going to test who we are. And we have an opportunity to grow with each of those things.
Yeah, so powerful, Ryan. Now, let's fast forward and talk about ViSalus, the healthy lifestyle company that you used to run. You took that company from $6 million in debt to $150 million in 16 months. How did you take that to scale so quickly?
There was a number of things that happened. One was the 2008, so we had sold to a publicly traded company in 2008. We signed it on 8/4/2008. And literally like the next day, the entire economy fell apart. The housing bubble burst. You had Lehman Brothers meltdown in September of that year. And so the whole, our timing was impeccable and, very lucky. Now the publicly traded company infused some cash. The founders were able to take some cash off the table, and they bought the business with a multi-year earnout. Because the business was in the luxury business of selling vitamins at the time, our sales went from $2.5 million a month down to $600,000 a month, and then we went into debt, and the whole thing fell apart. The publicly traded company wrote us off and basically walked away, and we as co-founders had to put basically all the money that we received from the publicly traded company, most of it anyways, back into the business to keep it alive and to keep the earnout going, which we did. And during that period of time, myself and my co-founders and our team, we revamped the entire business. And we created a message that met the new consumer. And this is good because there's a lot of talk about recession right now. And so when the recession hit in my industry, all of the very big competitors, multi-billion-dollar companies, they were retracting. And so we basically, went to a blank sheet of paper, created a new offer, for the new sentiment of the consumer. We created new marketing campaigns and promotional materials, and we revamped our entire business, and then came out with a new message that was a cost-saving message, as opposed to a luxury message. And the consumer was interested in saving money at the time. And so we were the first to really adapt to the new economy at that time. And then we became the fastest growing company. And we went from 2009, we did, I think like 9 million that year in sales. And by 2012, we were at 635 million and 100 million in profit.
That is incredible and so smart. We just had, run a company, Pinnacle Global Network, where we mentor CEOs to scale their business. And we just got together this past weekend, and we were talking about, okay, what is to come? And how do we position ourselves? Like, you can't just sit and wait for a tidal wave to come over, even though we don't really know. Is there going to be a tidal wave? How big? And so forth. Is it just going to be, some choppy waves, or is it going to be a tsunami? We don't know. Yeah. So how do you prepare yourself mentally? How do you be prepared to innovate, follow the demand, and, be ahead of the game? And this is exactly what you did, which was so smart. I don't know if you actually changed your prices or you just shifted the positioning around it. But that's...
We had a few products in our portfolio, and we put the emphasis on a meal replacement product, where before it was on a anti-aging product. And prior, people were interested in buying anything that was luxury. Anti-aging sounds great, but when your credit facilities are weak, and you have debt piling up, and you have job insecurity and instability, saving money in the grocery store line was a powerful message. So we didn't change prices, but we changed the messaging around our products to meet the new consumer.
Any other lessons for around that time? First of all, you took that money that you got, people would have often, been on a jet and traveling around, and you said, hey, we're going to put this all back into the business, which is, I'm sure, not what you were looking to do. But obviously very smart. I'm sure that was tough. But any other lessons that came out of that time? We have a lot of listeners and CEOs that we work with that are looking to scale up and sell their business.
Yeah, you want to be contrarian. So when the marketplace is retracting, you want to do everything you can to expand. In order to do that, you have to, cut. You have to make as much space as you possibly can. You might have to cut products, programs. You might have to cut people. You have to rethink and retool your business to be much more lean and much more nimble. And then when you make that space in the business, depending on how big of a company you have, then you can start to expand. The fastest person to adapt to the recession is going to win. And it doesn't hurt to prune right now, even if it doesn't turn out to be a tidal wave, which I would prepare for a tidal wave, because the rising tide of inflation, plus the rising interest rates and the things that have been holding up our economy are down. I work with people in the mortgage space, and loans are down 50%. And yeah, there's a lot of people that are saying, oh well, we have low unemployment, or we have lots of very little inventory in housing, but rates are now 7% where they were 3% a month ago. So I would be prepared to renegotiate everything, rethink my team, and take advantage of the opportunity. The best part about a recession is the companies that are not built with a strong foundation are going to fall, and very talented individuals are going to come to the marketplace. And those individuals are going to be the best assets you can get your hands on. And the other thing that I would say from a pure principle standpoint, I knew that some of the greatest companies of our generation, or of any generation, were created during recessions. Hewlett-Packard, Disney, in the 2008 recession, we have Uber and a variety of others that were born in that time. Yes. So I reminded myself that this is where the great companies are born. And this is the biggest opportunity that I have. And so I shifted energetically from scarcity to expansion pretty quick. But the first phase is you got to prune the tree as much as you possibly can, so that way you could preserve cash flow, you could preserve what's good and what's working, and then you can do various experiments to try to meet the new customer, meet the new sentiment, and take advantage of the opportunity that the recession is going to create. Because not everybody loses in a recession. Some people win really big, but it's harder to win. So you got to be stronger. You got to have more character. You got to have more unified team. You got to be more precise. You got to be more disciplined, more focused. You can't waste time on, trying to do everything. So cut products, cut programs, get to the core, and then you can look at where the opportunity is and invest accordingly.
Yeah, really focus on that top 20% that is driving your revenue, and like you said, make more space so that you absolutely have more to work with. And I think mindset has a lot to do with it too, which is everything to do with leadership. And I think, so I'd love to dive into that as well, because, right, it's not about panicking and shutting down, because then you lose your creativity and your innovation, which is really critical right now.
I'll tell you, in my program, I have a full-time psychotherapist. I have, breathwork coach, meditation coach. I have a vocal coach. I have a boxing coach. Like, mindset to me is everything. And all of the other things that I do to support me to have the greatest energy that I possibly can have, regardless of what's going on environmentally, regardless of what's going on in my personal life, is all designed around, giving me the greatest energy so I manage my time efficiently and I'm able to execute with a high degree of being concise and persistent and so forth. So I think entrepreneurs underestimate mindset. I think we don't realize how important mindset is. I study various meditation practices. Mindset is everything in this particular time. And the weak minds are going to fall apart, and the strong minds are going to prevail during this time. And so you want to strengthen your mindset as much as you possibly can during these times.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. And I think a lot of times, business owners I just want strategy. I just want that next, big strategy, whether it's, a marketing strategy, sales, operations. Yeah. And if you don't have the strong mindset, none of that is going to roll out the way you want. Yeah. So
with the right mindset, you can attract the talent you need to. You can learn the skills that you need to. Everything is obtainable with the right mindset. With the wrong mindset, you're always going to be looking for that next blueprint or that next thing or that next, whatever guru that's going to, teach you some sort of 20 steps to marketing, blah, blah, blah. But with the right mindset, you'll attract the right people and you'll be able to fill the gap with the skills that you need to be able to adjust to the environment.
Yeah, I love that. So now so speaking of mindset, you often speak on the topic of conscious leadership. What does conscious leadership mean to you, and why should business leaders care about conscious leadership?
Well, the opposite of conscious leadership would be unconscious leadership. And unconscious leadership is what the traditional corporation is built on. Scarcity, intimidation, ego, greed, and a variety of other low vibrational activities. And the world is waking up that there's another way to do business and there's another way to operate an organization. And that's, operating with empathy, with compassion. That's operating with the higher vibrational ways of being, joy, happiness, and actually wanting to develop your people and caring about your people and seeing them as people, not as, replaceable resources or as, as servants, for example. And the Great Resignation is a prime example as to the fact that the employees of this generation are waking up to the fact that they have a choice in who they work with. And they want to work with companies that are led by vision, that have a purpose, that are inspiring places to work. And so the old ways of intimidation and fear and scarcity and greed and ego no longer work. Those are the unconscious ways. And now to be conscious, that means that you have to be responsible and responsive. You have to be impeccable with your word and your communication. You have to care. You have to have an environment that facilitates growth. And when you have a conscious organization, it's a much harder thing to do. It's really easy to use the negative energies to try to motivate people, threatening them to fire them is an easy way to do it. Consciously, you have to find what's deep inside of them, and you have to call them to a higher level of performance based on them growing into a higher self in the process of their experience with you. So conscious leadership and conscious business is, I think, going to take over capitalism as companies like ours, and yours for that matter, demonstrate a new way of doing business and a way that is going to not utilize the tools of the past and utilize some more higher vibrational tools in the building of their business.
Yeah, I love that. And so it really is, it's a different world. You really can build the business with your team. And what we do in Pinnacle is help people build a team managed company where they really take it and run with it. They treat it like it is their own business. And it's so freeing, and it really is empowering. I would love, so I feel like we're just in such alignment, Ryan. I love everything that you're saying. Can you break down the components of conscious leadership for us, and in a way that someone's listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, I need to shift the way I'm communicating with my team. I need to shift the way I'm leading because it's not working. Where would they begin?
Well, all culture in a company is what you are positively reinforcing and what you're negatively reprimanding, for lack of a better word. So when you shine a light on the negative, what is that? When you're shining a light on the positive, what is that? And people are going to adopt and be trained based on what you recognize in the company. And so when you see negative behavior, you have to have a shared language, and you have to be able to call it out openly and honestly without creating resentment and fear in the environment, and without ego. You have to say, this is not who we are. This is not our culture. And so in AlterCall, my current company, I have an opportunity, because it's a brand new company, to build it, as a masterpiece, so to speak. So we work on our culture every single week. We get the entire team together, and we talk about what are the things that were on our culture. We have 8 values that we live by, and we recognize each other for, being alignment and the work that they've done that is in alignment with those values. And then we ask ourselves critically, where did we fail this week? Where did we not meet our values? Where did we not take action on our values? And we do that every single week, and we do it with the entire team. It's only 29 of us at this point. But we're working on culture now with a small business, because I have been in businesses where this got away from me, and I had a culture that I absolutely hated showing up to. It was everybody was upset. It was like a dark cloud over the building. Even when we were winning and being successful, no one was happy. Everyone was complaining. And so it all starts with the language. But it's what language are you utilizing yourself as a leader? And then what are you reinforcing? And then what are you shining a light on when they're negative? And I've had some mentors on the subject. The late founder of Tony Hsieh was a mentor of mine. And he was really focused on culture there. So I learned a lot from him. And I've also learned a lot from another cultural leader by the name of Dan Gilbert, the founder of Rocket Mortgage, Quicken Loans, and a variety of other companies. And I've been able to study with these individuals about how they've built very successful cultures. And I've extracted the best practices. And now, my mission is basically culture in this company. That's what I see my role as a CEO.
Yeah, it's just, I think it used to be seen, Ryan, as kind of this fluff thing.
Yeah.
But smart CEOs, smart leaders know that it's actually the core of everything, because everything comes off of that. You're going to attract the best people. When you have a strong culture, you're going to keep the best people, and you're there for everybody to win. And I love that you're asking. I wrote this down. Where did we fail?
Yeah.
And so that not to be hard on yourself, right? So that you can learn and do better. That's that takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, well, that's the environment that we're in. When you're in a personal growth environment, you want people that are going to say, oh, I really screwed up here. And that requires, part of being a conscious business, that requires people to take unconditional responsibility. If you're not willing to take responsibility for your part of the problem, you will never solve it. And so we create a culture around here where everyone is seeking to take their part of the problem. They don't blame client success if a client cancels. They blame themselves first and say, what could I have done in my role to ensure this client didn't cancel? And then and then client success takes their responsibility, and then, accounting takes their responsibility, and everybody takes responsibility for fixing the problem, as opposed to the blame game, which is how traditional businesses operate, is everyone's deferring responsibility, denying responsibility, and blaming each other in a unconscious environment. In a conscious environment, everyone's showing up and saying, I'm taking responsibility for my part of the problem, and I'll solve my piece of it. And then your counterparty's taking responsibility for their part of the problem. They're solving their piece of it. And then together we solve problems. And that's basically all the business is an entrepreneur is solving a problem in the marketplace. In order to scale that, they have to solve internal problems, right? The better they are at solving internal problems and starting with their own internal problems, most of the entrepreneurs that I work with, they have so many internal conflicts in their personal life and so forth that they bring those to the office, and that's why their businesses, retract in this environment, because they haven't fixed the internal problems within themselves, and so they create these internal problems within their teams, and then they're ineffective at solving the external problem that their business exists to do so. So if you get good at solving internal problems, you'll get great at solving external problems.
Yeah, that is. I haven't heard it actually described that way, but in probably my late 20s, early 30s, when I realized the power of taking responsibility for everything, I think the way I was raised was more like, oh, that means you're letting others off the hook, you know? But the interesting thing is when we take responsibility, it's so freeing, right? We realize that everything truly is a choice. But I love how you bring that into the company. What do you think as you are leading this way, what have you found are some of the biggest obstacles people face when they are beginning to take responsibility or implementing conscious leadership?
Well, when you have a conscious environment, the environment is much more sensitive. So, if somebody's being unconscious, everybody experiences it. In a traditional environment, if the boss says, shut up and get your job done, that might, be just fine. If I were to say something like that on a call, everybody would be pissed off that day and nobody would want to work, right? So in a conscious environment, there's a higher degree of sensitivity. And so you have to address more issues. But because you've established that you want to be conscious, the issues don't turn into, they don't gain momentum, and you resolve conflict pretty quickly, and people are self-correcting. Just today I was on the telephone and somebody had blamed a department. I was like, we don't blame departments here. What's your responsibility and who could you have called to have solved this problem? And, and the person said, you know what, you're right. My first default setting is to blame and to deny responsibility. And I got to work on that. And I said, okay, every time you find yourself denying and blaming, I want you to tell me, where you could be responsible, and then talk about how other people can contribute to the solution, as opposed to immediately blaming, right? Because when you're in that environment, if the first reaction, which most of us are because we've been intimidated in our environment, so we don't want to accept responsibility because that makes us look bad, that might get us fired. And so in those environments, people live in a state where they're constantly minimizing, justifying, blaming, and denying. And that is an environment where a person like me just goes insane. I can't get anything done if no one's willing to take responsibility. But if everyone's willing to take responsibility, myself included, I can get a lot done in a day, and I can solve a lot of problems.
Wow, that is, thank you for sharing that. I think if companies shift and start leading this way, truly, this can change the world, right? I mean, that's really what it's about, because as you are elevating leaders within your company, they're communicating this way to the people around them and so forth, and it has that ripple effect.
Yeah. Well, if everyone's taking responsibility, people aren't blaming the company, right? In a traditional environment, in the sales environment, they blame the leads, they blame the script, they blame the market, they blame the recession, they blame this, they blame that, right? We've all heard this as CEOs. In an environment where everybody's taking unconditional, radical responsibility, there's no one to blame but yourself. And so that turns the mirror back on them and gets them self-correcting and coming to the table with solutions, as opposed to constantly blaming all the problems on other people, the entity, or the market conditions, or the macro environment, which is, when you're really trying to build something, you want to try to get everybody to look themselves in the mirror as much as they can and try to elevate themselves each and every single day.
And you're going to move forward faster because you're not going back and forth in blame and with a vicious cycle. Now, your newest company, AlterCall, essentially teaches leaders how to embody this conscious leadership. And your company mission's really fascinating. On your Facebook page, it says, "We believe the mass majority of humanity have been programmed by a broken system that perpetuates suffering. Our purpose is to help people awaken, heal, and transform so they elevate to the endless possibilities of their human potential." Can you walk me through this mission, awaken, heal, transform?
Yeah, well, so as an entrepreneur, I bought into this concept that you see all the self-help gurus and entrepreneurial icons of our day, I won't name any names, telling you you got to work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's this whole contest about who works the hardest and who sacrifices the most and who's willing to sleep on the factory floor. And I further bought into the concept that, that self-medication and, that I should neglect my health and my workout, and basically everything should be about the company and about, me achieving success. And then I got some success and I realized that I was unhappy. My energy was terrible. Yeah, I could make a lot of money and I built some skills around that, but I wasn't fulfilled. And I went through a process where it was a real dark period of time. And during that period of time, I just reassessed my values. I reassessed my way of living. And I designed a protocol around that would, make it so that way I could do entrepreneurship with the most amount of happiness and the most amount of excitement and inspiration, and not do entrepreneurship with a ton of suffering. See, many of us believe the bigger our company gets, the more we have to suffer. And the more we want out of life, the more we have to suffer. And I'm here to tell you it's the exact opposite, but it does take a whole lot of work. I break it down into 4 quadrants. You have your mind, your body, your soul, and your role. And each day, your job is to move the ball forward in all 4 of those quadrants. And we help entrepreneurs, that generally are suffering because of the environment and the culture that they built. We help them get to a place where they can, rebuild that environment into a conscious environment, rebuild their lifestyles into a conscious lifestyle, and reduce their suffering and even eliminate it for the most part. You'll never eliminate it completely because suffering is a teacher, but if you change your principles and your philosophies around it, suffering will only show up for a few minutes a day as opposed to like many entrepreneurs I know, where they basically suffer every time they show up to the office.
Yeah, it's true. And so having those practices in place is really the foundation. I grew up with that idea of, you got to work, and I completely burned myself out years ago and just about imploded. Now, this is my 10th company, I take a week off every month, at least 1 week, sometimes 2 weeks. We're just getting ready to go to Ireland. It's actually forced the team to step up more and own it. And I think they're like, yay, we get to do that and have our time. And the interesting thing is, and I wonder if you experience this, Ryan, when I'm away, I get my best ideas for the company because I can actually think. And, you feel rejuvenated and re-inspired.
Yeah, I have a cabin in the middle of, off the grid in the middle of nowhere that I go to without any cell phone. It's in nature. There's no electricity. There's no water. I live in a pretty nice environment. And so this is like the exact opposite of the luxury that I live in. And I go there, just to go do raw stuff like chop wood and go on hikes and get dirty and try to reset my life. And then I come back in with a whole nother level of appreciation and lots of ideas and inspiration. And so, in fact, I'm really looking forward to, I too have a vacation planned coming up this Friday. And so I build to those vacations. And I don't do it a week a month. I might have to take some notes from you on this here. I'm probably about a week every 90 days or so at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I will tell you, I take a 2-hour vacation every morning, and then I meditate, and I do my self-love practices, and I just tune out, meditate, do breath work, and every single morning I have 2 hours worth of just relaxation. I actually start my day the opposite of the way most entrepreneurs do. I start my day in the most relaxed state that I can, and then I build up my energy from there. So for me, it works best for me to start from a relaxed state. I tend to bring more presence, more certainty, more conviction and clarity to the work that I do versus starting my day in an anxious state and aggressive state and then, burn out toward the end of it. I start my day relaxed and then build up toward the end of it.
Yeah, I want to hear how you do that. I mean, I will say I'm not chopping wood. I'm not, I have to say I'm a little bit more of the kind of, I'm like in the ocean and maybe a margarita. I don't know. But, whatever is right is going to be the reset for us that we need. Yeah. But I do sort of my own form of meditation. I'm actually a trapeze artist, so I fly on the trapeze, but I've had the hardest time to just sit and be still with my thoughts, which I know would be the best thing for me. So what advice would you give from, other business owners that are out there, their brain is always going. How do you, where would you start to make?
The best advice is go get Epsom salt or Dead Sea salt, put a ton of it in your bathtub, get it really nice and hot. Plan to spend an hour in there. And as your body heats up, you start to be able to focus a little bit more and you start to relax and get into a relaxed state. So condition yourself into a state of relaxation first. And then put on music with birds in it, and just close your eyes and say, I'm only going to listen to the birds right now. And every time a thought arises, just go back to listening to the birds and try to imagine the different type of birds that are singing to you. And if you happen to live in an environment like I do where the birds are singing outside your door, step outside in the morning and do that and just train your ears to listen. Meditation is really listening. So you might do it to classical music. I'll often just say for this song, I want to listen to every instrument. I want to hear every string. And I want to listen deeply to this music. The birds are a great one. And then eventually you can train yourself to get to a place where you can go to a place of silence, and then you're listening to the silence. And it's a training process, though. It takes some time. I was the most ADD, anti-meditation person ever, and then I read a study that said meditation improves your IQ by 23%. And I was like, wow, if I could get 23% improvement on my IQ from this practice, that's worth a lot of money to me. And so there's nothing that I could do that would give me as much success as an additional 23% on my IQ, right? So, there's nothing else out there. So I said, okay, for 23% on my IQ, I will learn to meditate. And it's been profound. And it's been about 5 years now that I've had the daily practice of meditation.
I think that is the best advice around meditation that I have ever heard.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, we have birds, a lot of birds around here too. And we do listen to them in the afternoon, but actually have that focus time in the morning. And I'm asking you more about this, Ryan, because I need this desperately. And hey, 20 extra IQ points, I'll take it. But also, so you wake up and it's 2 hours that you're doing this? Or
Yeah.
you're doing other things too, breath work and so forth?
Yeah. My actual practice is about an hour. I prepare. I take the hot bath first thing in the morning. And,
Okay.
when I tell women this, they're like, yes. And I tell men this, they're like, what are you talking about? You take a hot bath to start your day every day. That's how I start my day because I already have a ton of energy. So I want to come to my day very relaxed. I've already got my self-love out of the way. And then the second thing that I do is about midday, I'll take a quick meditation. So I'll do about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how much time I have in between my work duties, my calls, the other things that I need to do to serve my movement. But I'll take that meditation break to recharge. Like for example, today my day started at 6:45. I'm sorry, it started at 5 a.m. I did my meditation. I was in the gym by 6:45. But I'll teach up until about 7:30 tonight. So, I'll have a midday meditation break around 3 p.m. just to reset myself so that I can bring my highest level of energy after a 13, 14-hour day.
Yeah, so smart. So then you schedule it in because you have a long day to
Yeah.
give you that boost.
I
And I
schedule,
do.
I live by my calendar. I have 3 hours of self-love scheduled every morning. Like there's no interruption of that. There's no compromises or negotiation there. I have an
Wow.
hour and a half midday break every day. No one was allowed to have that time. Everybody, I have an environment where everyone wants on my calendar, right? And I've done that intentionally where, I want my calendar filled and I've taught people how to get on it. That hour and a half time, I make sure that I eat great and I get my meditation in and I just decompress and then I show back up to the second half of the day. You have to schedule the time for yourself. I see so many entrepreneurs skipping meals and then they claim that they're like some hero. It's like, I haven't eaten and they're hangry. Their energy's low. They're not present. And they think that like they deserve some sort of an award for showing up to the job like that. It's like plan your time correctly so that way you have the most amount of energy for every event on that calendar.
Yeah, that it's so true. It's so true. I mean, I've been exercising with the same trainer for 24 years,
Wow.
and I live by my calendar too. If I didn't have that in there and scheduled, it definitely holds me accountable too.
Yeah, I have
But
a boxing coach. That was when I said 6:45, that was my 6:45. I have a vocal coach. I'm learning to sing. That was 8:30. By the time my first meeting happened at 9 o'clock, I'd had the bath, done my meditation, done my breath work, had an hour boxing session, 30-minute vocal session, and then I showed up to the office, right? That's
oh man, well,
that's a
watch
day for me.
out for anyone
Yeah.
in that first meeting. You've already you sang, you boxed. Oh my
I did it
goodness.
all. Yeah, I've
I,
already
I'm I'm impressed. You're
yeah,
making me look
my
like a
objective
slacker.
yeah, my objective is to win the day before I show up to it.
Yeah,
So no
that's
matter what I'm up against, and I had a meeting where there was some, disagreement that happened or this happened, that happened. It's like, I've already grown. Oftentimes what happens is we have a tough situation, there's a disagreement, and then we go, you know what, I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm not feeling like it. So I get that done. So that way, whatever comes my way, it's not going to compromise my agenda to live the healthiest lifestyle that I possibly can.
Yeah, great. And so, as we're getting closer to wrap this up, just quickly shifting this same energy to the team.
Yeah.
How does this spill over for uniting the team, investing in your team, leading with purpose?
Yeah. Well, one of our values at AlterCall is energy. And so when a person has terrible energy, we call them out on it. If a person's showing up and they're tired and they're complaining about the fact that they didn't get good sleep, we say like, that sounds like one of your problems and you need to work on that. We want our team members to be products of the product. And so if you're complaining about how stressed you are, how tired you are, how bad your flight delays were, like that's not going to work in our environment because that's not the energy that's going to feed everyone on the team. And we call each other out on that type of stuff. And I'm not perfect. There's times that, I got up at 4 a.m. and I show up a little cranky and they're like, you're not bringing the best energy to that call. And so my team calls me out just like I do. So, because that's one of our values, each of us are required to bring our best energy to our meetings, to our clients, and to the work that we do. And so, that's the most important aspect of how you build a conscious environment is to, create a system that requires you to lead by example, holds you accountable to that so that you have the right to hold all of them accountable. What most entrepreneurs do is they don't want to be held accountable. They just want to hold others accountable. And everyone's not going to do what you say. They're just going to do what you do. So if you're not responsive, they're not going to be responsive. If you're not on time, they're not going to be on time. If you're not taking responsibility, they're not going to take responsibility. And so you have to actually embody these virtues of consciousness in order to hold people accountable to them. And so that's my mission. That's what I wake up and do every day. I tell people at AlterCall, I am the product of the product, right? So I treat everything I do as though I'm a professional athlete, as though I'm a professional singer, as though I'm a professional dietitian. I have an entire crew surrounding me to make sure that I show up to those meetings on point, and I don't take any excuses when people don't.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I think that there are a lot of CEOs out there that can benefit from listening to this interview with you today. So I'm excited. I'm excited about that. As we wrap up here, Ryan, is there anything that you want to share with our listeners that we haven't covered that you feel is important?
Yeah, I think that entrepreneurship is the most important job in the world. And I think we as entrepreneurs, we get so caught up in the trenches of the war that we're in that we forget that what we're doing is providing a great service and a great value. We're providing people jobs. Every time we launch a new initiative, we're expanding the opportunity to our team. We're expanding the value that we create to our customers, and we're making the world a better place. And right now, the world needs more entrepreneurs to create more solutions because we have tons of problems. So just, keep the good fight. Realize that this is your purpose and see your business vehicle as something more than just an economic engine. See it as an engine to manifest your actual purpose into the marketplace and to make a change in humanity. And just really show up each and every single day with that type of energy and that type of enthusiasm because your business matters. No matter how small or how big it is, it matters.
Yeah, it really does. And the power of being that catalyst for changing lives all around you, your community and the world and the economy. Nothing better than being an entrepreneur, and also gives us an opportunity to be that student for the rest of our lives, right? Always evolving, always learning, always growing. And this has been so inspiring. Ryan, thank you so much for being here. Where can people learn more about you?
You could go to altercall.com. It's ALTERCALL.com. Or you could catch me on Instagram. I'm at @RealRyanBlair. And if you DM me, we can have a discussion.
Well, this has been really fun. And
Awesome.
Thank you for being here today. I've learned so much. I believe it's going to be time for me to take a bath and listen to the birds. So, but thank you everyone for listening to another episode of the SCALEit Method. And a quick reminder about our free masterclass. If you want to build a scalable company that can thrive without you and you're ready to get the support you need to do it, sign up for my masterclass today, and during the time together, I will teach you the 5 critical phases you must know in order to scale to 8 figures and beyond. So head on over to www.scalemasterclass.com/podcast to secure your seat, and I will see you all there. Until next time. Bye, everybody.